Have a little experiment we're going to do today. These are eggs. I'm going to get one out. It's very cold. Carefully packaged. I gotta turn off this TV. Ooh, I tell you what. Oh, if I sit on that egg. I woke up today thinking that I had the stomach bug. Not good. No, I went to sleep last night and I woke up this morning thinking about this Alabama stuff. So if you basically live in a hole and aren't familiar with what's happening on the planet, the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that unimplanted embryos are children. Alive children. And what Chief Justice Tom Parker said is, there is no unwritten exception for frozen embryos outside of a woman's uterus. So basically, this is an egg. Let's pretend it's frozen, okay? That would mean, if you pretend this is an embryo, that this is a human child. So what happened in Alabama that started this whole business is that somebody, a patient, was going in the, snuck into the embryo room or whatever, and she dropped the embryo because the tube it was in. Okay, go on outside. We're not going to cry. Go on, out, come on. No, out, come out, go on outside. You're crying to go out, go on out. She dropped the test tube because it was, negative 480 degrees. Because, of course, it's an embryo. And I would like to argue that the only reason you can freeze an embryo and not cause its death is because it's not alive, right? You can't put a person in a deep freezer. So in Alabama, what happened was this person dropped the embryos and the parents sued for wrongful death. They said, you murdered our children. Now, I am sure it was devastating, right? Like these were going to be their hopeful children. But there's a real difference in being a child and being a potential child, right? Like this egg, no matter what I do with it, if it doesn't, nothing's gonna happen, right? And nothing's gonna happen. If I sit around with this egg and keep it in the freezer, I don't get it. It is not alive. It's no more, what if you had a vial of sperm and then somebody said, well, that's alive? I struggle with this. So in Alabama, what happened was they dropped the test vial and the embryo went all over the floor and they said, you've killed a child. Did they have a funeral? Did they name the child? Did the child have health benefits? Did the child have life insurance? Did they get a tax break for the child? No, they did not. And it's rare that I feel so willing to take a stance. Sherry says, I have 3 children through IVF. And yes, I understand the test tube was dropped. I would say negligence. Yes, yes, yes. 10 and 20% of all known pregnancies end in miscarriage. And Kimberly, I've often heard it's about 30%. So I had a miscarriage. I think most really women do, that occurred before hearts started beating. In one picture, there were 3 sacs, and in one, there were 2. So either twins or triplets. And I'm going to tell you, I was devastated. I put a picture of the ultrasound in a picture frame. It was heartbreaking. But on the other hand, I also went to the funeral of my big brother, who I watched die of cancer for a year. And I will tell you, I would not compare my hurt from that miscarriage to the devastation and hurt of my family. Right? And now maybe some people do, and that's fine. But I would argue this is sort of, go ahead and go crazy. But you know how you see people walking around and they have cats and strollers at the mall, and you know those people didn't have children? Well, there's a reason, right? So maybe if that was your hurt and maybe if I'd had that miscarriage and never ever had children again, it would feel way bigger to me. But when you have life, you have death. You have a funeral. You have death. What they call an embryo is they don't call it so if you have an embryo implanted and it doesn't take, they call it an unsuccessful implantation. It's not even a miscarriage. It's an unsuccessful implantation. Unsuccessful implantation. And I think what really got people with this Chief Justice Tom Parker, and I'm a Christian, but I do understand the separation of church and state. Human life cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God. This is not human life. There is no life yet, right? There's no life. I don't get it. And you think, oh, well, that's Alabama. Well, what about all the families in Alabama that have spent thousands of dollars and they've got their embryos and they're ready to have another baby? Maybe they're like my friend who had cancer and she was able to freeze eggs and have embryos, and now it's going to be great, right? Because she doesn't have any eggs left. And so those embryos are sitting in Alabama and she can't access them. An embryo is a fertilized egg. Therefore, it's not just an egg. That's right. An egg and a sperm. That's right. But is it alive? Because if it is a child, like the Supreme Court is saying, then you should be able to get life insurance. You cannot. You should be able to get health insurance. You cannot. You should be able to get a tax credit. You cannot. If you leave that embryo, just like that egg, ain't nothing's going to happen to it, right? And you think it's not going to come to your state. It's going to come to your state. Now, what's funny about this is because it's, claim on your taxes, right? Everybody and their mother would be going out. I might be willing to try to scrounge up some eggs if I thought I was going to get a tax break, I mean, you could like have hundreds, be sort of awesome. I don't think my eggs are done. Or what if you say, well, you know what? I want to get rid of my ovaries. And somebody says, oh no, it's alive. Is that really where we want to be? I don't think this has anything to do with abortion. I do think the ban on abortion has naturally made its way here, but I don't, those two things seem totally separate to me. It would be like suddenly saying, this cat is a child because I see the cat as a child. The cat is a child. As much as I might love the cat is not a child. The cat is a cat. An embryo, as much as you might love it and see these clump of cells and think this is going to be amazing. I cannot wait for this. And you're excited. You cannot, it is not, there is no life. Because that would mean that when your implantation didn't take place, you would have a funeral, right? So Stephanie just said, what happens to the embryos that expire before implantation? Are they saying it's murder for the clinics to dispose of them? Well, Stephanie, I think that's the problem. I think it is a mess and everybody is nervous over it, you know? They're nervous over it. They may not survive the thawing process. Yes, I mean, this is... Nikki Haley. The best part about this thing, and I'm saying that in a very facetious way, is that how do you know what is in God's eye? Well, I'll tell you how I know. Come on. I'll tell you how I know. God talks about, I created you and knit you in the womb. And he values those in the womb. He does not say, you took some sperm and put it in a cup, and then your wife's egg got out, and we mixed them up. And this is my precious life. No. He did not. He did not. I had a D&C after my miscarriage. A D&C. Did you know a D&C is considered an abortion? It was listed as an abortion on my hospital papers and my insurance. And I was like, I did not have an abortion. You know, I did not. What do you think about, I feel bad for the families because they don't have not very much money to get pregnant. Well, I mean, I think we have to acknowledge IVF is certainly a expensive process and not everybody has access to it. You know, Phyllis said, I went through gift, gamete into fallopian transfer. Several derived eggs were placed inside my fallopian tubes. If they all took, Most people who have miscarriages don't own funerals. And we're not talking about a miscarriage. So when I first wrote my story, I was wrong. I know y'all love to hear that I was wrong. I'm unlike a husband. I don't have any problem admitting I was wrong, but I compared the embryo not developing as a miscarriage, but someone more well-versed than I was, and I went back to look, is that an embryo that does not implant is not a miscarriage. It is a unsuccessful implantation. Unsuccessful implantation. Not a miscarriage. And you know why? Because a miscarriage is the loss of life. this like full on takes the cake to me. Thank you, Sherry. Unsuccessful implantation. Unsuccessful implantation. So when Chief Justice Tom Parker said human life cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God. Cells have been dividing to form a baby. That's right. They have been. But I think most people would argue that life begins with, life is not a couple cells in a dish. Because if that's life, then is life a vial of sperm and an egg getting ready to touch? You know? I will die on this hill. I like this hill, and I will die on this hill. Shush. Die on the hill. Carry on, subscribers. See you at 11.